The sentiment in the crypto market is still pretty bad. And I can understand that, bro. So let's talk about the worst and the best case scenario. So let's go over the altcoin market as it is right now and what potentially the downside could be and the upside. No bias allowed in this video, okay? Although I am prepared with a bag of altcoins now that prices are so low. I want things to go up, of course, but we should look at what's realistic, what's honestly realistic. And that goes for the upside, but it also goes for the downside, of course. All right, so let's get right into that. Welcome to the FOMO Factory. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Turn the bell notification on. Check out the Discord down below. The Alpha Factory. A lot of good stuff in there. And let's go over it. So Bitcoin, $106,000. Bitcoin is showing like, what is something going on? I don't know. It's in a pretty decent bullish pattern right here, with the resistance at 107-ish. So, you know, Bitcoin is not the problem, right? Bitcoin is just in a range where it's sitting, you know, a lot of times here as well. That's the steps that Bitcoin is taking in this market, right? It goes up, ranges, down, up, ranges down, up, ranges down, up. And it's like that all the time. So when I look at Bitcoin, do I see one single warning sign? Bro, the amount of like the news right now about stablecoin adoption and Bitcoin and Ethereum being bought OTC and the way that it's being adopted right now is ridiculous. I would be really surprised if Bitcoin is not sitting over 150K in a couple months, actually. So that's not really the problem. But hey, that's a 50% gain. That's great. I'm not here for that, right? I am here for the altcoin market. So let's go over a couple charts that I think are just super important. Now, we can take a look at multiple altcoin charts to get a picture of the total market, right? But then I want to go into the charts that really matter. There are a couple charts that tell us everything that we need to know. So stick around. Look, others is everything. Look, every chart here is within the top 125, okay? So if you ever talk about micro caps or whatever, they are not included in these charts. And you have to take a look at these charts individual. But others is everything outside of the top 10. Okay, so no Bitcoin, no Ethereum, no USDC, no USDT, but also no Cardano, XRP, Dogecoin is in there still, I think, and a couple others, right? So these are basically the mid-high caps. If we look at this chart right now, yeah, look, I mean, it's not a bear market, right? Bear markets are obviously looking like this, right? This is a heavy bear market. After the bear market, it usually, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, overall sideways for longer than you live, basically. And then we start the bull market. Here it was the same, right? We were in a bear market, up, down, boring for a long, long, long time. And now we are in the same kind of pattern, actually. But the altcoin market itself, it's not spectacular at this moment. We had two spectacular moments in the altcoin market. However, try to let go of the expectation that it should be spectacular at any time. It is not 2017 anymore, right? It's not that there is like that low of liquidity in the market that it takes nothing, literally nothing to pump it anymore. Although even in that market, I don't know how further it goes back, but from beginning 2014 until mid 2016, nothing happened, right? And that's if you zoom out. If you zoom in, a lot actually happens, right? It goes up with 500%. It goes down with 80%. It goes up with a steady 130%, right? Like, but overall, if you zoom out, eventually it was just sideways, right? Eventually, if you zoom out, this was sideways. Eventually, if you zoom out, this will be sideways, right? But now in the middle of it, it feels like every 5% correction that the world is over, and every 5% pump that we're so fucking back, right? Like, it's not Like, try to look through that. Okay. So the altcoin market for now, it's grinding up very slow over the long term, and over the short term right now it is grinding down again, right? It's nothing too weird. There's also the total 2 excluding stables. Total 2 is everything in the top 125 excluding Bitcoin, but also excluding stables. So what is this? Only altcoins, right? Including ETH, but that's an altcoin, right? If you look at this chart right here, then you can see this, right? This chart, I don't know how the hell I draw this, but this chart overall is in an uptrend, right? It has periods where it goes below this trend line. I mean, we had the tariffs, and here we had the COVID, right? 2 black swans. Tariffs a little less bad swan, of course, than COVID, but still, overall, in a pretty decent uptrend. Yeah, and look, you can say whatever you want. The altcoin market did make a new all-time high this cycle already. Although it doesn't really feel like that because, hey, this is just the top 125. The weaker coins leave the top 125 and the stronger coins get in there in place. Right, so this is a chart that's constantly only adopting the stronger coins. Yeah, and if you add all the stronger coins together, then the altcoin market made a new all-time high. Right, so what does that tell you? That it's totally not the time to be in the risky shitcoins. Right, of course, virtuals, when it came out, it was completely dead. Nobody knew about it. Nobody cared. And then it started to completely rip. So that was one of the lower cap crap coins back then. That was a good investment. But yeah, the other 40 million weren't, right? So still the risk reward in the low cap altcoin market is below terrible. It has always been below terrible though. It's nothing different, right? But altcoins, stronger ones collectively have been making new all-time highs. Oh. Great. Are we only in the outperformers? Probably not, right? A lot of people are in profit though this cycle, and most people are not. And that's because most people get wrecked. Now, most people say it's not going to happen. Most people get wrecked. So is it likely to happen? In my opinion, yes. Now, I want to talk about something pretty interesting right here. I want to start with the worst case scenarios for alts. I can look at altcoins on the dollar pair, and then the worst case scenario is and will always be fucking zero, right? Yeah, that goes at any time. It's crypto that we're in, right? Like it's the altcoin market. If there is so much reward in this market, then you have to accept the fact that there's also a lot of risk. Right, so I get it that it sucks that your altcoins went down 70-80%. Then again, you invested in altcoins because they can go down 80%, because they can also give 20x's, right? That's the world that we choose to live in. Now, I don't really think that looking at the dollar pair is necessarily most relevant because it says nothing, right? $900 billion in the altcoin market. Okay. Yeah, compared to what? Compared to where it came from? Yeah, that's a lot, right? But total different environment, right? Compared to where it might go. Yeah, also, we don't know where it, goes. I wish we did. So what we can do is better look at something that is already confirmed and then compare to that. Right, so you at least know, like, hey, what's reasonable and realistic to expect? What do we already know? We do already know that Bitcoin is sitting at $106,000. Guys, there's pretty much a third world war going on, and Bitcoin is sitting at $106,000. You can also look at it like that. There's a lot of bad shit in the world right now. Let's be fair. There's war. There's the tariffs. There's crypto banter. I don't know what's worse, but there's a lot of bad shit going on. Yet Bitcoin is sitting at 106K. Imagine if that is all settled. Bitcoin is gonna moon, really. Easy. $1 million. Like, not this cycle probably, but eventually, long term, if you don't have a short term time horizon, but you feel like, okay, long term, I'm fine with that, buy Bitcoin, right? However, for this cycle, we have to look what the risk reward is. And the risk reward to now get in Bitcoin is not great. And I'm gonna tell you why I think that, and well, why I see that, and why I read these charts like that. So the thing is that there is a very well respected YouTuber, and let me look it up on my other screen first. That constantly talks about a certain chart, right? And that's Benjamin Cowan. And he speaks a lot about the total tree, so everything excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum and excluding USDT on its Bitcoin pair. And he speaks about range lows. It has to go to range lows. Okay, cool. Let's talk about these range lows, but then also let's be real and let's talk about other range lows and about the risk of this chart in this specific matter. So what he's saying is altcoins should go there, at least, is what he says. So, you know, probably lower even, but at least there. Cool. I think that there's a problem. Whenever alts were higher, people didn't believe that. Right, and he was talking about it back then as well. So far, great job. Right, but the problem I think is though that now that alts are here, now everybody starts to feel like, yeah, it will go there. But now I feel like, yeah, now you came to the realization. So probably now you should do it the other way around, right? Because retail isn't often being rewarded for doing what feels best, right? If you feel a certain way, then do the opposite. It's really, if you ever want to make it with crypto, counter trade your feelings and you will be rich within one cycle. I can guarantee you that, actually, really. Apart from that though, worst case scenario, in my opinion, is that this will come through, right? Maybe even a little lower, but that this will come through. Now, what does that mean? That means that altcoins can drop, well, 20, maybe 30% against Bitcoin. Okay. What does that mean on the dollar chart? That depends what Bitcoin does, right? If Bitcoin tanks, then altcoins won't be nice. However, again, yeah, I don't know. Find me a reason for Bitcoin to tank and we'll talk about that by then. But I don't see why Bitcoin will tank, actually. I honestly don't see it. With everything that's going on right now, you know. If Bitcoin stays where it is right now, give or take, right? And altcoins go down here, let's say down 20%, then it just basically means that altcoins on the dollar pair will also go down 20%, right? The high caps. Low caps could go down 30, 40%. Then you have to wonder, is that a bad thing? Depends if you have money to buy there. Because if you do buy there, then you will make more money, right? Buying here was not bad. Right? It took a long time, but eventually buying here, yeah, was fantastic, right? But if you bought here and you panic sold here, that's bad. So it kind of depends what you do with it, right? Now, what I do want to mention about this chart, though, is that I don't think that this is the most realistic chart to look at, actually, because it does include USDC. It does include USDE. It does include USDS, these newer, bigger stable coins, but it also includes some real high caps that you might not be invested in. So I just don't know how realistic this chart is, actually. But hey, then again, could this chart go to the range lows? Still, you know, Cowan says yes. The reason why it goes there, he constantly changes that, though. So I feel like, man, I don't know. You know, first it was it should happen before the end of 2024. than it should happen when Bitcoin dominance 66%. Well, pretty much got there and barely didn't do anything with this chart. So, but hey, for now it's breaking down a little bit, so it could still happen. What I do think is really important to understand, and I'm not saying that I have the right answer or whatever. I don't know. I'm just saying what I'm thinking, right? If we look at such a chart and we can say that this is an oscillator, and if it's oscillating, then it means it should go there, kind of, right? Then I feel like, okay, the same applies for other charts, right? Now here's the thing. If you look at this chart, the Bitcoin dominance plus ETH dominance plus stable dominance, right? So that's basically the dominance of everything except altcoins. That chart looks like this. And then I feel like, okay, if a chart that looks like the previous chart, and this one even more, has to go pretty much to the range lows, yeah, then I feel like, man, but if this has to go to the range lows as well, then it means that all this dominance is flowing into alts, right? Again, this is the dominance for pretty much everything except alts. So if this goes down, it means that money from Bitcoin or and ETH or and stables flows into altcoins, right? And then I start to think like, okay, we want to take the best position that we can based on what we see, right? We don't want to try to time bottom stops or anything. We just want to look like, hey, what's more likely? What has more upside? What has more downside? And place your eggs mostly in that basket. Now, if I look at the chart that Cowan is looking at, for example, I feel like it has to go there, his words, right? It doesn't have to do anything, in my opinion. There's a good chance that it will go there, maybe, but it doesn't have to, right? It might as well bounce here. But even if it has to, it goes down with 20%. Is it wise to, after all of this, now still be bearish on alts because it might go down another 20% compared to the fact that you might miss out on a chart that's also oscillating that can go down all the way down here, right? And I know this is also 20%, but that's a different kind of 20% than the other one, right? This is coming from a total different level, right? Then I feel like, man, being sidelined in alts right now is basically saying like, hey, we went all the way to the, what some people should consider as the bottom, right? But not just yet. But we are now bearish on alts because it should go down with a couple extra percent. But if we're wrong, we're missing out on a move like crazy, right? And you can see it on this chart as well. This chart, it could go down another 20%, definitely. But it could also go up 200% against Bitcoin, right? Imagine if Bitcoin goes up, like then alts are really gonna rip. Then I feel like, okay, now it's a matter of risk reward. Because I think that, you know, alts are risky, but they are always risky, right? Even in the bull market, alts are still risky. You know what else is risky? FOMO for altcoins. If this chart decides to bounce a little sooner, right? Let's say this chart does this, right? Yeah, the people who were waiting for this last final drop, they will be like, fuck, why did I try to time the bottom? And now I have to FOMO in here. And then it maybe goes down again, and that's how you get wrecked. And that's for me risk reward. There I feel like, isn't it much better to just be positioned if we are so close to the bottom that it's maybe just better to, if we do get there, take a temporary 10, 20, 40, whatever percent hit to at least have exposure to 5, 10, 15x's for when this chart bounces? I'm telling you honestly, I think being sidelined right now is straight up ridiculous, actually. And that's also because, again, if with Joe, for example, right? People loved to buy. I have this chart right there. It happens to be right. It could be anyone, but people love to buy here at 150 or whatever, or even here at $4. People love to buy there, right? People hated buying at 14, 15 cents, where we are right now as well, because it feels riskier. It feels like, whoa, altcoins are too risky. There's no reward. While here you are much further from the bottom and closer to the top than here. Right? So in fact, at these low prices, altcoins are way more rewarding and less risky, because wherever the bottom is, we are closer to it right now than where we were over here. And wherever the top is, we are further from it now than what we are over here. So the risk reward in altcoins right now is so much better. But it's the sentiment and the emotions that tell you like, no, it's a bad time. So maybe a little off topic, but risk reward. Okay, so worst case scenario, in my opinion, for alts is, yeah, that indeed it turns out that this is a range. I don't even know if this is already a confirmed range. Like, yeah, we had a low, we had a lower low, so you could even say that we get a low, right? I don't know. We had a high with a low high, right? And then again, if I look at this chart right here, this is more of a range, actually. Really a range. Worst case scenario, we get there and alts go down 20% against Bitcoin. Again, what it means dollar-wise, I don't know, because that depends what happens with Bitcoin. And I am long-term, mid-long-term, of course, bullish on Bitcoin. But yeah, whatever happens in the meantime, hey, it's anyone's guess, right? So that's my worst case scenario, that indeed might happen. Now, if we look at another chart, which I think is more realistic, actually, than the chart that we just looked at. So let me pull up that chart right here, right? The USDT, or total 3 minus USDT divided by Bitcoin. I did this chart. Cool. What I think is a more realistic chart is total 3, excluding stables on its Bitcoin pair. Because this chart still, like I said, includes a lot of stable coins that keeps this chart in total actually more elevated than altcoins actually are, because these stable coins, they don't go down, right? So this chart actually is lower for the actual altcoin market than what we might think. Therefore, we can take a look at the crypto market excluding stable coins on its Bitcoin pair. Right now, how did I draw this? Okay, here we go. If I look at this chart, then I can also see a worst case scenario. We have a range right here, right? This was clearly ranging. Here it got support. Here it got support, and you could say like it's broken. I don't think these kind of charts are a matter of one straight line. I think it's more a matter of a range, and this looks more to be like the downside of that range. So I would not be surprised if we get a bounce, then this should be the place. However, if we break this, what could happen is then we still have this diagonal, I think, although I'm not sure how strong this is, because 1 touch, 2 doesn't make a trend yet. Really, 3 touches is a trend, is what they say, right? But let it prove itself. Maybe that could happen, right? And that would mean that we could get a bounce here at 0.25. Add this chart on TradingView, I would say. This is the most telling chart in crypto, one of the most telling charts in crypto, in my opinion. Because, hey, we know that Bitcoin is doing great. So all we need is altcoins to do well against Bitcoin. Well, this is the chart that actually show how altcoins doing against Bitcoin, not altcoins including some stables. Who the fuck's investing in stable coins, right? Now, if this diagonal turns out not to be a trend, then we could look at the lower range, and that's about 2 points. Yeah, depends if you take the wicks or not, but 2.1, 2, 3, something like that, anywhere up till 2.4. So that's down with another, let's say, 12 up to 18%. Right? Again, this chart shows like, hey, it's 20%. Yeah, again, this chart is not altcoins on their Bitcoin pair. This is altcoins and stables on their Bitcoin pair, right? So I don't know how realistic it is to expect that alt should go down 20% on the Bitcoin pair when it goes to this range, right? Because in reality, if you exclude stables, then 18% down, yeah, that would be the lower side. 19, to be fair, would be the lower side of the range, really the lower side of the range. So that would be my worst case scenario in this case. Now, there is a case to be made that alt season is diminishing, right? And you can see that on multiple charts, of course. If you look at the Bitcoin dominance, yeah, the first alt season, the Bitcoin dominance went down with 63%. The second and last alt season, the Bitcoin dominance went down with 46%. Right? You can see also on this chart right here that we just popped up that the first alt season, altcoins on the Bitcoin pair went up like crazy, and this went up a lot less. And the third one, according to Crown, this was our alt season. I think that's completely ridiculous, actually. But I think our next alt season, yeah, could be a lot less, right? Could be maybe, you know, to be fair, somewhere here, maybe. It's a big range. Yeah, it's good like this. But somewhere here. Right? And that could be up to 80%, 115% against BTC, give or take. Right? But again, don't get it wrong. That's on average, right? Here it went up from wick to wick 400%. You might feel like 5x. How? We have seen a lot of alts doing 100x's. Yeah, again, this is only the top 125 high caps, right? That's displayed on this chart. And you don't have to go all the way in the trenches. But if you look at somewhere up to the top 500 or so, where a lot of quality is sitting, actually, they will outperform like crazy. Right? But also, based on this chart, right? I feel like, man, downside, upside here. Yeah, so are we gonna be bearish? Because it might go here compared to that it might also go here. I don't really know if that's the best thing to do, actually. Therefore, I remain really bullish on alts. And I know I get some comments lately like, you've been calling alt season for long. You suck just like the rest. Bro, who called this? What happened right now? Who called this? Right? Who called that it was going to take so long? Nobody did. Right? Nobody calls crypto perfect. I need that person to be my best friend, man, if that person exists. But hey, yeah, I was expecting it to happen sooner. On the other hand, I feel like, man, look, you do you. You do what I do. You don't do what I do. I don't care. I'm just looking like what I think is best right here. Even if we go down with 20%, I will not feel like, oh, I got this so wrong. Because even after that, it could go up to the place where I eventually expect it to go. right? And it's not this point where we could say like, ha, you see? No, you see, that could only be said when the cycle is completely confirmed, done, over, finished, right? Yeah, and it could be that we do this and then this, right? And then this place was nothing else than a great buying opportunity. Yeah, and I would not like be too judgmental now that everything is going sideways slash down, that it's over. Like last cycle as well, you know, it went down and it was ranging, and then it went down again, and people were like, ah, you see, you got all these comments or these tweets from people say, you see, alt season, but that's when we finally got it. So don't be like, don't judge yet before it is actually over. And in this cycle, it was nothing different as well, actually, right? Went down, sideways for way too long, a low, even a low, low, even a low, low. The trend was bearish. And out of nowhere, no confirmation, bam! Like, oh, the people here that said it's dead, ooh, ooh. And now you see people saying the same thing again, right? It's dead, it's over, they make a low, low. Okay, show me the lower low where it wasn't a great buying opportunity. That was literally where people had the opportunity to change their life, right? If it never goes down, then okay. But then where did you place your buys to take profits whenever things were high? Right? If this didn't happen, if people didn't buy here, they had like, or even this, then they had nothing to celebrate when the charts were here. So yeah, it's a matter of perspective. Like, is this same as this a bad thing? Depends on what you do with it, right? And I made very clear on my channel, at least, like, hey, rule number one: never all in, right? I also in the L Factory, you follow my portfolio, you know, I'm always in cash. Yeah, and for some reason, people do decide to go all in, whatever, in November, right? And then when things are lower, they'll be like, ah, these fucking YouTubers, like, I feel like, yeah. Come on, but who told you to go all in? Who told you to buy the highs? Like, don't, right? Just don't. It's a great market. There's nothing wrong with the market. It's yeah, there's nothing wrong with the market. It's just not an easy market, right? But the same over here. But did this market right here, did it make a lot of people a lot of money? Yeah. But only the people who didn't go all in here, right? You just don't want to be that person. That's it. That's all you have to do. Therefore, I would say I remain really, really, really bullish on this market. Apart from the fact that some indicators, like if you look at the Bitcoin dominance, yeah, it's really high right now. Could it go a little higher again? This is basically the opposite chart of this, right? Could it go a little higher? Sure, I don't know. Maybe it goes all the way to 70%. Wow, great, right? Like that's. I see some people say that, like, it goes to 70%. Cool, that's a 7% gain. That's fine, right? Could it also go down with 30%? Yeah. Like, is that risk reward worth it at this point? For some people, it might. If you try to time the bottom, time the top, you will walk away with more money. But if it goes wrong, you will lose everything because you will FOMO in back later. And personally, I'm just like willing to place my bets on what seems most likely to me. And if I have to take a few percent hit in the meantime and be a little bit more patient, I'm fully accepting that. I'm totally okay with that. If my portfolio goes down with 50K in the coming months, but rewards me with 2 million in the coming 2 years, that's okay. I can live with that. I can live with that because I know that I'm not getting emotional when it goes down and I'm not panic selling. And therefore, I know that I can play this game like that. You have to wonder, like, what if it all goes down like expected? Am I prepared? Great. What if it all goes up? Am I prepared? Yeah, if one of the both answers is no, then you don't have the right position, in my opinion. That's the simple answer. Bears could be right. Bulls could be right. At the end of the day, you have to look where the most upside and where the most downside is, I think. And I think that the charts are at this point pretty obvious. So I want to leave it here. I demand no hate comments on this one. I feel like I did a great job. Nobody says that, so I'm going to do it. But I honestly think that if we look at things unbiased, this is a decent way to look at it, right? So place your odds the best way possible. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, check out the Alpha Factory down below because that's how we really prepare over there. Turn the bell notification on, and I'll see you in the next one.